Okay, we're good to go.
Okay, good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 9:01. It's the Committee of Adjustment for July the 10th, and all members are present.
No, Lisa.
Oh, sorry, Lisa Grogan Green is not here. And I will read this statement. Today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. Thank you. And moved by Member Brown, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated July 10th, 2023 be adopted. All those in favor? That is carried. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? And moved by Member Bridgman, second by Member Brown. Be it resolved the Committee of Adjustment minutes and approved as circulated. All those in favor? That is carried. And now we'll have the clerk go through the proceedings. Kitty?
We've got on mute there. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's required that I make a few statements and then I will explain the hearing procedures. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2031 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Ruth Ann Brown, Joe Quinn, Sean Stokes, and I understand Lisa Grogan Green is absent. Is that correct?
That's right.
I confirm we have a quorum. I can also confirm that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this July 10th, 2023 agenda was invited at the following email address: planning@muskokalakes.ca. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions have been provided to committee members by Friday, July 7th, 2023. The planner will present any submissions received after this date. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you're here to speak on an application, please wait to raise your hand in Zoom until the planner presents the relevant application. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions. The committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions for consent and minor variances and the reasons for the minor variance decisions are both required under the Planning Act, and motions are pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. Motions have also been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. The motions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions, as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and if no appeals are received. And lastly, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the first application is A 9422, and the planner is Ms. Gillen.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee, and good morning. The first application to be heard is minor variance application A 9422 in the name of Dymtryshyn. The subject lands are known municipally as 2356 Muskoka Road 118 West. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 31 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to construct an addition to an existing dwelling. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting, and no submissions from neighbors or members of the public have been received to date. Comments were received from the Township's Building Services Division stating no objection. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the 3 sheds on the property be removed as indicated on the submitted site plan, and 2, that a satisfactory D4 study/assessment be completed by a qualified professional and any recommendations be implemented to the satisfaction of the township. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here? I believe we have an agent. Okay. Okay, would the applicant like to speak first or the agent? Okay. Yes, go ahead, sir. We need your name, address, and postal code.
236. For a variance, so I can go ahead and proceed with building the garage.
Oh,
That's much better. Start all over.
yeah. Thank you.
My name is Wayne Dymtryshyn. I live at 2356 Highway 118. Request in Bracebridge, Ontario, Milford Bay. And I'm requesting a variance to be approved for building a garage and then a place above it for storage. And well, basically, like when I look at my house, it's not quite finished. So putting a garage with a peak the other way would much more be appealing and getting rid of my junky sheds out front.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think that's pretty good. With my variance from my understanding, at 1.52 over top of like 2,000 square feet over my variance perimeter of my property, and I was just under. I could allow the 10% instead of the 5%.
Right.
So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Okay, so there's nobody to speak on this. Anyone in an objection? Okay. Are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Stokes, be it resolved that application A 9422 demolition to construct an addition to the existing dwelling is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 2,885 square feet or 6.3%. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following conditions. 1, that the 3 sheds on the property be removed as indicated on a submitted site plan, and 2, that a satisfactory D4 study assessment be completed by a qualified professional, and any recommendations be implemented to the satisfaction of the township. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry, do you need a reason why? Do you want a reason why we've decided
No,
this?
we,
Well, is this the same as planning where you want it
No.
documented what
no,
we,
it's already, it's a pre-populated, they just go with it. We've been doing this for 4 years now, right?
no, I just, okay, never mind.
you want, I can clarify.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
Through you, Chair Edwards. Yes, Member Bridgman, you're correct. It used to be that for certain applications, staff would look to members to provide some insight with regard to the reasons and the impact of written and oral submissions. However, just to make it simpler on everybody, we've pre-populated the notices. However, with that being said, if there was some particular aspect of an application that you thought was relevant with respect to your decision, feel free to note that. We could note it, but so far that the change we've made has been working quite well for us. Thank you.
it's great.
You bet.
Thanks.
Okay. So we'll go on to the next application, and that's A 2823 Cancelleri. And that is Lisa Gilgan again. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. It's A 2223 Chan. And that's Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Good morning, members of committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 2223 in the name of Chan. The subject lands are known municipally as 1191 Glen Gordon Road, Unit 11. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 50 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to recognize an as-built dock addition. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating that on August 23rd, 2022, an order to comply was issued regarding the southeast sun deck. The owners were directed to remove the sun deck or apply for and obtain a building permit for the sun deck. To date, no building permit has been applied for or issued. As it appears the sun deck is not compliant with zoning bylaw 2014-14, planning relief is required. Following circulation of comments to committee, a letter of objection was received from Deborah and Stephen Solarski, abutting property owners to the west of the subject property, citing concerns with the amount of dock that has been extended onto the shoreline, the continuation and extension of a dock within the required side yard, the potential for the dock to become an area for partying and how this will impact their enjoyment of their property, and the potential impact these variances could have on resale values. They agree with staff's recommendation to revegetate the shoreline. Lastly, they apologized for the late submission of comments and claim that they did not receive written notification of the application. I can read this submission in full at the request of committee. One comment was submitted with the application at the time it was submitted. This comment is from Perry Poole, area neighbor, expressing support for the application. Staff would note that during our site visit, it was noticed that the as-built dock portion of dock that extends, that the as-built portion of dock extends slightly over the eastern legal non-complying dock. This extended width was not noted in the application. If the width of the dock does not match the width that this application applies for, the applicant will have challenges when applying for their building permit. In regard to comment received from the westerly abutting neighbors, I have checked the circulation list and can confirm that the notice of this meeting was sent to the Solarskis in accordance with the Planning Act. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following. That the as-built sun deck be removed or brought into compliance with comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14. that a satisfactory fish habitat evaluation be undertaken by an environmental professional to address potential impacts to fish and fish habitat, and that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title along with securities for any necessary implementation of the recommended fish habitat evaluation and for vegetation retention and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. Staff have no comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak? Have the agent, Terry Ledger.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Edwards and committee members.
Morning.
Terry Ledger, 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, P0B1J0. I am.
Excuse me, Terry, could you speak up a little bit? There's a background noise here. Thanks.
Sure, sorry. I'm going to turn up my, is that better? Is that better?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. I am the agent for the applicant. I think a little bit of background here. I'd like to thank staff first of all for helping me out with this. There was a little confusion. This property had been recently sold, so we are trying to sort of rectify the issues from the previous owner for the new owner, which is why all the decks have been refurbished, and a few of these items were done, granted without permits, but it should be noted that that southeast deck was actually built in the 90s. However, after 87, so still without a permit. So that's why it's sort of coming into play. And I believe that the order that was placed on that deck, they thought it was for the dock. Anyway, it's a whole conundrum of things, but we believe that we can deal with the deck issue through the regular permitting process. And so we're just here today to deal with the dock. It was not meant to encroach more. We're happy with all the conditions, and we'll sort of rectify that issue of the overlap at the edges of the dock. The infill portion is an old boat ramp. It's actually concrete under there a little bit. So, it was just an added area so that you can sit out there. Both the docks are narrow. Because it is, even though it's farther away from the existing docks from the property line, because it's still within 15 feet of the property line, it requires a variance for that for the side yard. And also the percentage of dock coverage, it's normally 25% on the larger lakes. So that was also mixed up here because it's less. So the extra dock width is also being asked for. So I know it's a little confusing, but I'm here to answer any questions you might have about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application? Okay. Okay, would you give me your name, address, and postal code, please? Oh, they don't want to come in? Okay, can you unmute, please? Okay, they don't want to speak? If you'd like to speak on mute, please, or put your hand up so they can see it.
Hi, it's Perry Poole. I'm not sure if you're talking to me.
Yes, I am. Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so I think that for the dock portion, just support it because it actually provides a safe passage from the one dock to the other now. Before it was a concrete boat launch underneath there, and it's just covering that.
Sorry, can we have your name, address, and postal code, please? Thank you. I switched it on. Could we have your name, address, and postal code, please?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. It's a bit tricky
Okay.
on the phone. So it's Perry Poole, and we're 1911-1191 Glen Gordon Road.
Thank you very much. And your postal code?
N3H4R8.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support or opposition? Okay. Would you bring them in, please? Okay, would you state your name, address, and postal code, please?
Hello,
We have your name, address, and postal code, please.
my name is Deborah Solarski. Address is 1191, Unit 15, Glen Gordon Road. I'm the direct neighbor of the applicant.
And your postal code?
M1, I think it's, oh, I'm not sure on the postal code. Sorry, because I don't have any mailing at this address. Hold on, I shall look it up. I don't ever use it because nothing comes here. It's P1L1W8.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to confirm and reiterate my concerns and my objections to the dock situation, and that it abuts completely right up to my property line. I understand the application has put in some safety concerns there, but at the same time, what essentially it is a gathering spot as for the sun deck. And my concerns is as a gathering spot, the traffic, the noise situation, summer partying, with it being so close to my property, I really have concerns about my enjoyment and my privacy to my own property with that. And I don't want the extension of, if this variance goes through, I do not want it to be grandfathered into as remaining as is in case of any kind of future sale. I don't want to have a repeat of what has already been grandfathered into. I'm not sure if there's any concrete underneath the decking that's already there. Historically, I think not, but that remains to be seen as it's all covered. Anyways, that's what I like to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Are there questions from the members? I have one for the applicant on page 40. Is that a hot tub on that deck? It is. And how far is it from the water? Pardon? Yeah, and that, Ms. Ledger, can you tell us how far that is from the water?
I would just say approximately 36, 37 feet. At the corner, it's at a weird angle, as you can see.
Okay. Yes,
Through you, Chair Edwards, I believe perhaps you're inquiring just with respect to whether or not the hot tub would be permitted in that location. Most hot tubs are required to be set back a minimum of 66 feet unless they're otherwise located on a legal non-complying or on a sun deck setback 50 feet from the high water mark, or on a legal non-complying sun deck setback at a lesser distance. So in this case, as that sun deck, it appears that portion isn't legal non-complying, that the hot tub wouldn't be permitted to be located in that area. As Ms. Ledger had indicated, she intends to address the sun deck in figure 1 on page 40 as part of the building permit process. So I think that will all work itself out through that process. Thank you.
okay, that, I just wanted for clarification. Are there any more questions? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Just in response to the neighbor being concerned about the noise, whether that has a platform or not, that certainly is the owner's ability to have friends over and to participate in whatever socializing. So I'm afraid I don't quite understand the issue with that. So I'm in favor of passing this.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Member Stowe.
Just one question about the sun deck. So because of the hot tub, is the sun deck to be removed, or is it to be modified, or is nothing at all to happen with the sun deck? And the hot tub as well?
Through you, Chair Edwards. So far as I can tell, because the sun deck was built in the 1990s, at that time, sun decks not exceeding a height of 6 feet were exempt from front yard setback requirements. However, with that being said, no building permit was issued for this sun deck, so it doesn't comply with today's minimum front yard setback requirement of 50 feet. So the sun deck will either have to be removed or in its entirety, or a part of it will need to be removed in order to comply with that minimum required setback. And if the hot tub is situated such that it's closer than 50 feet from the high water mark, or 66 feet from the high water mark, it'll have to be removed as well. So I think at this point, those details will flesh themselves out as part of the process that Ms. Ledger's working through with the township's building division. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. There's on figure 4, it looks like there's another, I'm not sure if that's a raft or if that's another sideways dock. Because I see there's a chain, but I also see 2 metal pieces on that break wall, but I'm wondering if they're covering more. Or if that's from that picture may be taken from the neighbor's property, but it's figure 4.
Through you, Chair Edwards, Member Quinn. That is a floating dock that was sitting ashore. And we did discuss the aspect of the floating dock, and it can be hard to regulate given that it's a movable structure. It wasn't in the water. That being said, this variance, if granted, would permit a certain width of docking, and any excess would not be permitted. So putting the floating dock in the water would increase that width and would not be permitted as the variance is before you.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Seeing none, moved by member Brown, second by member Quinn, be it resolved that application A 2223 Chan to recognize an as-built dock addition is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a side yard setback for a dock of 9.5 feet from the westerly side lot line, and 2, to permit a cumulative dock width of 24.5 feet. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following conditions. 1, that an as-built sun deck be removed or brought into compliance with comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14. 2, that a satisfactory fish habitat evaluation be undertaken by an environmental professional to address potential impacts to fish and fish habitat. And 3, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title along with securities for any necessary implications of the recommended fish habitat evaluation and for vegetation retention and planning to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Alan. Or Chair Edwards, I should say. I would just clarify, I believe Ms. Crowder had noted that there's a slight overhang on the dock addition that's not indicated on the site plan. I would recommend that a condition be added to have that portion removed just for clarity. Thank you. Through you, Chair Edwards, I've just added a condition. Condition 4 states that any dock portions exceeding 24.5 feet in width be removed.
Okay, thank you. You've heard the resolution. All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you very much.
Now, the next application is A 2823, and that is Ms. Gilden.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance A-2823 in the name of Cancelleri. The subject lands are known municipally as 1224 Hemlock Point Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 64 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to reconstruct and enlarge an existing single-story boathouse and dock. Notice of the public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance of today's meeting, and no submissions from neighbors or members of the public have been received to date. Comments were received from the Township's Building Services Division stating no objection. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that minor variance application A-2823 ML for relief from dock length, boathouse length, and boathouse width be approved, and that relief from boathouse height be denied. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And did the agent or the owner wish to speak on this?
Hi, yep, I'm the agent. It's Grant Cleveland, Fitzmaurice Brothers Carpentry, 21 Armstrong Street, Bracebridge. Yeah, so I'm here to answer any questions and just give a brief outline of the proposal. Thank you to the staff and committee for hearing this. There's an existing dock and boathouse currently on the property. We plan to, if possible, maintain the width, which is over width at the moment, and actually reduce the distance that the boathouse projects into the water. So we're going to move the boathouse closer to the water, closer to the shoreline, I should say. But the overall length of the dock, which I believe is also over slightly, will be maintained if possible. The reason for the height is because the slips are going to be angled. It changes the construction somewhat of the roof, and we're just for the boat lifts, to be able to lift the boats out, we're just asking for a little bit of extra height to make that possible. Yeah, and the dormers are really just for added light. So
did we get your postal code there?
sorry, say again.
Did we get your postal code there? I'm not sure if I heard it.
Yeah, P1L1C1.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this? Anyone in opposition? Are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Through you, I'm looking at figure 2 on page 57. And I see off to the side, it looks like for a personal watercraft, there is an extension of the dock. Has that been included in these numbers?
Through you, Chair. No. So when I arrived to do the site visit, one of the owners was home and she said the other owner was arriving by float plane later that day. And that's a temporary extension that was put so the plane could land. Aircraft is typically covered under federal government. So I didn't know that we had jurisdiction when they've stated that that's a temporary addition. So it's not part of the numbers that were shown on our site plan. And my understanding is it's not there most of the time. It's just to facilitate landing of the aircraft.
Okay, good. So do we have some sort of documentation that that's been approved through the federal agency?
We don't at this time, but the owner indicated that she could provide that if we need it.
I think that would be helpful. My next, and I agree with your recommendations. I think that, you don't need 18 feet to have a boat lift because I have that. So that's not an issue. And we're trying to, when we have grandfathered properties, we're trying to bring them a little more into compliance. So the boathouse is going back. So I don't understand the extra dock. I'd like to see the dock be compliant to our current, so 66 feet. So those are my comments.
Any other questions or comments? Huh? Moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A 2823 Cancelleri to reconstruct and enlarge an existing one-story boathouse and dock is hereby approved with the following conditions being granted. And I will make note of this, it is on there, to permit a maximum height of 18 feet per single-story boathouse. 2, to permit a maximum cumulative width of 27 feet for a single-story boathouse on a lot with less than 200 feet of lot frontage. 3, to permit a maximum length of 51.8 feet for a single-story boathouse on a lot with less than 200 feet of lot frontage, and 3, to permit a maximum length of dock length of 67.6 feet. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. So we'll open up for comments and discussion now. The first one, to permit a maximum height of 18 feet. Is everyone in favor of that, or do you want to turn that down?
I agree with Member Bridgman's comments on the dock height or the boathouse height.
Okay, so that is, and that tonight, okay. So the first one is off. And the cumulative width is fine. To meet a maximum length of 51.8 feet for a single-story boathouse. And that, but it's the one was to permit a dock length of 67.6 feet. Is everyone happy with that, or do you want it down to 66 feet?
Is it not 70 now? Is it not?
Can you tell me what it is now? Thanks.
I think it's 70.
It's 69.32.
Okay, so are we going to leave it at 67.6 then?
Coming closer to conformity. I'm okay with either way.
Okay, everyone else okay with that?
Again, I will defer to Member Bridgman. I think her comments were well made.
Right.
I think Member Bridgman's, I don't know why I want you to be mayor this morning. Comments were well made on the dock.
So do you still want 66 feet?
I would prefer that if they. Through you, Chair Edwards. If this had been existing already, I would not ask that it be chopped off by just a little bit, but I think what we're doing now is we're redoing the length anyway. We're not leaving what is there already. Am I correct?
So a portion of the dock extends to the length that they're asking for. The measurements shown are a little bit different because there's the measurement of the length of the dock just taken from the dock. But then when we look at the projections into the water, it's really only, I believe, 1 point. It's less. So it's at the same length that it sits at currently, but not the entire dock extends that length. So they want to add a portion that meets the current length. So there's a little bit, but because of the boat slip of the current dock, the rest of it doesn't extend to the same length. So they want the entire dock to extend to that length, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't quite get all that. Is there going to be work on the ends of the dock? That's all I'm asking.
There will be a portion that is extended, but the overall length will remain what it is. So yes and no.
So visually, it's going to look the same from the water. Because you've already got one part of the dock that's out this far.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm fine.
Okay, so just to confirm, we've removed the height of the boathouse, but everything else, so that's there's, instead of 4 variances, only 3. Okay. Everyone understand that? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, and the next application is A 3323 Mohamed Ali, and that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 3323 in the name of Mohamed Ali. The subject lands are known municipally as 1007 Pratt Road, Unit 4. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 88 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to reconstruct and enlarge an existing dock, construct a 1-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck and a 2-story garage. I would like to clarify that the agent has indicated that the proposed use of the upper story of the garage is to be storage only, not habitable space as indicated in the staff report. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance of this meeting, and 1 submission has been received to date. Comments have been received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to the following conditions: that the existing shed be removed, and that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to revegetate the shoreline buffer. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. As the applicant or agent here, I see we have Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. And my lighting this morning seems to be very poor, so I apologize if I appear to be
The
dark.
dark force is here.
I was going to say that your shirt this morning is quite bright. I should call you Chair Buffett, Jimmy Buffett. My name is Ryan Allen. I'm here to represent the applicant as their professional planner. My address is 104 Kimberley Ave, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L1Z8. The subject lands are 1007 Pratt Road, unit number 4 on Lake Joseph. Thank you, Ms. Crowder, for your thorough analysis and positive recommendation. I do have a brief presentation I'd like to share with the committee, if that could be queued up. The subject property is at the far end, northern end of the township on Lake Joseph. Next slide, please. It has approximately 0.6 acres of area and 103.6 feet of frontage. Next slide, please. Ms. Crowder explained the proposed variances that have been dealt with this application. They are particularly related to a proposed detached garage and in addition to an existing boathouse. Next slide, please. You'll see a 710 square foot detached garage located more than 200 feet from the shoreline. This garage is located next to the existing septic system and over top of part of the existing driveway. And you'll also see a 106 square foot boathouse addition to the end of the existing one-story boathouse. The boathouse addition extends the boathouse by approximately 6 feet or just under 6 feet in length. And the owner proposes to convert the rooftop of the existing boathouse into a rooftop sun deck. I understand that many years ago, there previously was a rooftop sun deck boathouse in this location. However, it was burnt down and replaced with a peaked roof, what you see today. There is a small portion of existing dock proposed to be removed off to this southern side of the existing boathouse, which reduces the overall dock width by about 5 feet. Next slide, please. Here's an enlargement of the existing boathouse as well as the proposed addition. There are a few small additions associated with the proposed boathouse addition. However, all of those are compliant with the bylaw and don't require part of the variance approval today. Next slide, please. This is the rear of the existing dwelling, septic system to the right. The garage will be located over the existing driveway. Next slide, please. This is looking down towards the rear of the boathouse. Next slide, please. And a closer view of the rear of the boathouse. The paddleboard to the right-hand side is the location of the dock that is proposed to be removed. Next slide, please. This is the boathouse on the neighboring property immediately to the right side or the east side. I understand that the applicant has had a chance to share his plans with this owner, and they are generally supportive. As you can see, this owner also has a rooftop sun deck on their boathouse. Next slide, please. And so in terms of general planning analysis, we're only adding 106 square feet of additional building area within 200 feet of the shoreline. Less than 6 foot extension of the existing boathouse is small. However, we're maintaining that existing width, which puts us over the maximum cumulative width by a few feet. Reduction of dock width, which is positive. Currently, the existing dock does exceed the maximum 25%. The new garage is 200 feet back from the shoreline and will not be visible from lakeside views. No vegetation is required to be removed. The garage is located over the existing driveway. The shoreline buffer screens existing development, albeit the buffer is not the 50 foot as envisioned in the official plan. However, built form will not dominate the shoreline as a result of the additional 106 square feet added to the boathouse. The reduced setbacks of the rooftop sun deck are small on the northern side And due to the angle of the boathouse on the shoreline, the setback is approximately 6.7 feet towards the end of the boathouse. That's a portion that extends furthest out into the lake. And the increased coverage will not impact access or servicing. Just a quick point about the shed that's on the property. The reason it was not identified on the site plan is that it is not actually on the subject property. So I would ask that the committee consider removing a condition that can't be fulfilled on the subject property. Next slide, please. So it'd be my professional opinion that this proposed minor variance application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and represents good planning. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? Okay, other questions for the members? Yeah, yes, Member Bridgman.
I would probably asking the same question, but thank you, Chair Edwards. So the shed, is this current owner using it, but it's on somebody else's property? Is that what I'm gathering?
That is correct.
So am I correct? So it's on somebody else's property, but the owner is using it?
Through you, Chair Edwards, that this is news to me. I did not know that the shed was on a different property. It's located somewhat close to the dwelling. When I was on site, it looks like it's a part of this property. But Mr. Allen is saying that the owner is utilizing it and it's on a different property, the abutting property.
Yes.
I think we need a
Thank you.
survey.
Yep.
Thank you. And I'm quite honestly, I think we need surveys on everything we do now. I know we've avoided that, but I think we need a survey for this to ensure that it's not on this property.
Member Quinn, you had it.
I have a problem with the shed too, even though it's on the other property. Maybe we can't legislate or rule that it be taken down because it's not on their property. Then I think we need a better understanding, because I think it was built by the owners of the applicant and has always been used as, and it's now we figured out that the shed didn't belong to that property and it probably should be cleaned up.
What are someone else's thoughts? Because I'm saying that if that shed is on somebody else's property, is it 15 feet from the property line, or are they going to need a variance? Yes.
Through you, Chair Edwards, just with respect to the shed, I just wanted to clarify the reason that staff are recommending that it be removed. Of course, we were under the understanding that the shed is on the property, but the reason we had included it as a condition that it be removed is because it would contribute to lot coverage, and it wasn't otherwise included in the total lot coverage amount. So if it's not on the property, then it wouldn't count toward the lot coverage. It's not uncommon in the township to run into situations where you have buildings that specifically belong to one property but have encroached on another, and typically we view those matters as private matters between property owners. Mr. Allen has indicated verbally at this meeting that the shed isn't on the property. So you could take his word, or alternatively, we could amend the condition to require the shed be confirmed as being on the abutting property. So it's totally up to you. Thank you.
Well, I'm just looking at page 77. If that's on somebody else's property, the doors seem to be facing his property. And he says that the owner is using it. It's very confusing.
Through you, Chair Edwards, I think that the shed is, my understanding is it is being utilized by this subject property.
Yeah.
I think the question is whether it's on this property or the abutting property.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Allen then. Is it cheaper to have a survey to prove where it is, or remove it? Which is your option?
Oh, thank you, Chair Edwards. I can do one better. A survey has already been completed. So that is how we know for certain that the shed is on the neighboring property. The shed was not included on the site plan provided because the site plan is only related to the subject property. So if that has added to some of the messiness here, I apologize for that. And maybe some of the history. Muhammad Ali became the owner of this property very recently. This shed was constructed by the previous owner and is continued to be used by the new owner. Mr. Ali is proposing to build a new garage and effectively will no longer need this shed. The shed's days are numbered. I can tell the committee this. So in terms of adding a condition that requires a survey be completed, there's no hardship there because the survey has already been completed. I can forward that to township staff immediately after the meeting.
Is that shed 15 feet from the property line then?
I cannot confirm the setback. The setback is not indicated on the survey.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Member Bridgman.
Okay, thank you, Chair Edwards. So if this shed is not on this property, it's really irrelevant to our discussion today. I understand that. So as long as we get the survey and the shed is not part of this, then I think it comes off the motion.
Okay, yes, Member Stokes.
If that's clarified, I just have another clarification that I'd like from, I think it was a comment from the agent, and it had to do with the with an error in the report. I believe it was under report highlights on page 74, where it states that a two-story garage with an upper story sleeping cabin. And I think the agent said that that's not a sleeping cabin, that it's merely for storage. I guess my question is that interpretation correct? And second of all, if that's the case, does the fact that it's to be used for storage need to be stated on title?
Yes, would you like to answer that, Ms. Crowder?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Chair Edwards. Yes, so after the report was published, the agent reached out to me and clarified that the intent of the upper story is to be storage only. So that was an error on staff's part, and I just clarified that this morning in my script. But this property is zoned such that you could have a sleeping cabin on the property. So the upper story of the garage could be utilized as a sleeping cabin, so to speak. So I don't know necessarily that we need to say that it's storage only on title, given that a sleeping cabin is permitted. That being said, if a sleeping cabin were to go into the upper story of the garage in future, a secondary sleeping cabin wouldn't be permitted on the property.
Okay, did that answer your question? Yes, yes.
Ms. Crowder, through you, that was sort of my question, but it looks to me like if this is storage, they're already at coverage, so they wouldn't be able to put another sleeping cabin on this. So that was where I was going with my thinking.
Through you, Chair Edwards, that would be correct. They would be at their maximum coverage and would not be permitted as of right to put a sleeping cabin in.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'll read the motion. Moved by Member Brown, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that application A 3323 Mohamed Ali reconstruct and enlarge an existing dock, construct a one-story boathouse with a rooftop, sun deck, and a two-story detached garage is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 2,960 square feet or 11% over the area of the entire lot. 2, to permit a lot coverage of 2,250 square feet or 11% within 200 feet of the high water mark. 3, to permit a side yard setback for a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck 43.5 feet from the northwesterly side lot line projection. And 4, to permit a side yard setback for a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck to be 32 feet at the southeasterly side lot line. And 5, to permit a maximum of human single-story boathouse width of 18.4 feet. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are hereby subject to the following condition. And the one, that the existing shed as shown on figure 1 be removed. And 2, that satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the planning act be entered into with and registered on title along with securities for retention of vegetation and planting or revegetate the shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the decision. So we're looking at the shed now. Do we want to cross that off? The existing shed shown on the figure 1 be removed? Since it's not on that property, yes.
Through you, Chair Edwards, just a suggestion, we might be able to amend the condition to say, or that satisfactory evidence be provided that the shed is not on the subject property.
Okay, Bryce, would you like to add that, please?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I just amended condition 1. It now states that the existing shed shown on, sorry, let me start that again. Seem to be having problems this morning. That the existing shed as shown in figure 1 be removed, or that evidence satisfactory to the township be provided confirming that the shed is not on the subject property.
Are there any questions or comments on that? I'll call a question. All those in favor? That is carried. There's no correspondence, no future business, so I guess we're down to the fact that moved by member Quinn, second by member Brown, be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment meeting adjourned at 10:05 a.m. All those in favor? Yep.
Didn't make one. Controversial.
Mhm.